she doesn't really know what you want. But after a while, these horses, they learn from the release. They don't always necessarily learn from a hold. So I would put a leg on, I'll step over a couple times, and then I'll take my leg off. And while I'm doing this, my outside leg, which is the outside of the circle, which in this case is my right leg, I keep off my horse. So I'll push a couple steps, and then I'll walk forward. And then I'll push a couple steps, and then I'll walk forward. Does everyone see that? Anybody have a question? Why I'm doing it? All I'm doing right now is getting my horse broke and teaching it that my hands and legs are okay. We're not afraid of my hands and legs. We like my hands and legs. We're going to learn. I do the same thing both directions. Now, only after they get soft when they're waiting and they're kind and they're not worried, then my outside leg, I'll use a little behind the girth, and I want to teach them to move their hip. So I'll put it behind my girth and I'll push it forward. So I'm pushing, right now as you can see, my right leg is driving this filly's hip into the left. I don't generally hold it for that long, but I wanted to show you. And this can be very confusing for a horse. A good way to start it, in a real basic way, if you want to stand on the rail and just teach that horse to move like a side pass off your leg. And then eventually, when they figure that out, what a good thing to do is you can put this horse on the rail, let it go off, move your leg back, and then just step off the rail. And that rail will kind of help you so you don't have a lot of pulling and one less thing for that horse to worry about. And I leave my horses on the rail working hips for quite a long time before I pull them off the rail. Does anybody have any questions so far about some of the basics and why we're doing it? The other thing, when you get into the hip, that gets you more into the advanced knee changing and stuff like that. So if you don't have a horse that's what we call deadly leaded, that we'll get into here soon, they're going to have to go through the process of learning to move their hips and pick their shoulders up and all that stuff. Like I said, if you were riding a hunter or a jumper and you needed to swap things in between your fences, or a working cow horse or anything, they need to learn to take things in the front and back. And that's where this exercise is real nice, because as you can see, this filly is kind of working the back end. Then if I want to work the front end, I can work the front end over this way. And basically, I want no resistance from this filly or my horse that I'm riding at any time. If I have resistance, you cannot go any further. You've got to get your basics and you've got to get rid of your resistance. Okay, now first of all, I'm going to go through the maneuvers of reining. Like I said before, it's supposed to be willingly guided with little or no apparent movement from the rider. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out loping circles. Now the proper definition for circles for reining, in my eyes, is a series of straight lines. You'll see us bending our horses a lot, and we do a lot of bending with our younger horses, teaching them to elevate their shoulders and giving their chin and be soft. But when I'm done schooling a horse and I'm getting ready to teach them to show and finish them, I'll actually straighten my horses up. So a good definition of a circle is a series of straight lines. And I believe that any horse to perform properly needs to elevate its shoulders, use its belly muscles, and be able to stay straight. Does anybody have a question of that so far? So we're going to start out with a circle, and I'm going to start out to the left. Okay, now in reining, we have a lot of, well, Karen's going to talk to you a little bit about our judging system. She is an NRHA judge, so you get a whole lot of questions answered here tonight. But we are never allowed to trot. Whenever we trot, it's a penalty. So, knowing all those little maneuvers I gave you, you're going to see all those things. I need all that stuff to keep me out of getting penalties, and I need all those basic maneuvers I did. Is nothing more than what I'm doing now, but just at higher levels. That's all. So if I'm going to take a left lead departure, I'm going to walk into the center and the judge is sitting at the rail. I'm going to stand, I'm going to elevate my hand, and again, that horse needs to wait, not to anticipate anything. And then I'm going to move my right leg back, step over slightly to the left, and I'm going to walk a step. A lot of people try to lope off from a standstill. Remember, you only have a penalty from a trot. You don't have a penalty from a walk. So why would you give yourself a harder maneuver when it actually looks softer if you walk a half a step anyway? It's easier on the horse. You don't have to spur them. You can apply a leg softly. I'm going to pick my hand up. I'm going to step over. I'm going to wait, and then I'm going to lope up. no trotting, no worries, and no getting nervous. Okay, now, I'm going to be looping my circle, and as you can see, I need to make sure that I get back to the center of my circle, and that's what you're judged on. You've got to come through the same center all the time. I want to come straight across my center, and then continue. It's almost like a little bit of a D. I want to have a few lines in the center of my circle. And again, I don't want my horse pulling on me, and I want my horse right between my bridle reins. I want him right between my hand. I don't want her leading on the outside rein or the inside rein. I want her right between her bridle reins. If I drop my hand, she's going to keep loping the circle because she's standing right between my bridle reins. Okay, now, we do a lot of speed control. We're judged on running our large, fast circles and then coming down to our small, slow circles. That's some of the excitement about reining. So when you start out, we're going to come through the center and I'm going to run a couple large, fast circles and I'm going to come down to a small, slow circle in the middle. When I come down to my small, slow circle, I'm going to softly sit down, not to scare my horse. I'm going to steer in. Should be a very simple maneuver. As I'm chasing my horse, I'm going to lean up like this, give her her head. Don't scare her. There's no reason to spur on her right now. It's not a race. You're supposed to show that your horse is willingly guided and willing to go. Coming through my center, another large fat circle, willingly guided. She's using her ears. I'm coming to the center. I'm going to softly sit down, lean back, small slow. And this filly, if she's trained right, she should be, really couldn't wait to come down to small slow. When you come down to your small slow, you can't be running large fast, come down to your small slow and have them go faster. And that's what happens a lot of times, especially with the Morgans and our Arabians, anything that's kind of bred to be a little bit up, or a little bit, I don't even call them up, I call them overachievers. My Morgans are a little overachievers. You teach them something and they think they have it all figured out and they want to go show you how to do it right away. So what I do is I'll lope a couple large fast circles and I'll come to a low in the middle. I won't even try to go slow for a while. I'll just lope a couple large fast circles, come down to the low, let them stand. Do that a half a dozen times, then go down to my small slow circle because they were thinking to come down and go slow or stop. So I put a lot of weight on my Morgans in that way. And also I find with training the Morgans, you can train their minds. Because physically, you don't want to, they're, like I said, to me, they're kind of overachievers. So you don't want to get after them. You want to work with their mind a little bit more than, like a quarter horse can take a little bit more of, like pulling and stuff like that. With a Morgan, I find has to understand their job before them to be quiet at it and understand it. Any questions on the circle so far? Okay, now, right now I'm going to have Karen do some circles. I've talked about the horse, now I'm going to tell you some things about the rider. What I want the rider to do when they're showing to score highest. Karen, with command, we're going to lope some circles to the left, just like I just did with Patty. Anytime you guys have questions, please raise your hand. Karen's going to walk to the center and just lope some big circles. Don't go fast, just lope some nice big circles and get JJ loosened up. No, just go do a couple big ones and then I'll tell you what to do from there. Just going to start in the center and lope off. Just let JJ get his loosened up a little bit. Now when I'm teaching people to show, first thing that I'm really thinking about is the center of the tent. I want them to come to the same spot in the center every time. And let me tell you, I don't care how good your horse circles, if that judge is sitting in the center of the pen and you're not getting to the center of the pen, you're not getting scored. Another one at that speed. Now, the next time Karen comes through the center, she's going to go into a couple large fast circles. I want her to take her eyes and look ahead to every other corner of her circle. And that's going to ensure that she's going to get to the center the proper way. She's going to run her hand up the neck, not go too much faster, and I want her eyes out. Her changed. All right? She softened up with her ride. Her horse came back to her to a nice, small, slow circle. Any questions on that so far? Anybody? Okay, Karen, you can stop in the middle. Very good. All right, now I'm going to talk about the turnaround. When a horse spins properly, it goes back to our basics, and this is where your basics are really, really, really important. If you don't have what I was teaching in the beginning, you're not going to have what you need for a turnaround. This horse has to follow his nose. He's got to be able to pull that shoulder back on the inside, which enables him to cross over. And when you think about a horse turning around, they're not turning around starting with the outside foot. The proper way for a horse to turn around, they actually step back with their inside shoulder, and what we call they pull real estate. They step back and they pull grab. They don't start by crossing over. If you think in your mind that you're going to teach your horse to spin by stepping over from the outside, they've got to learn to clear, get that shoulder out of the way. That's why you see some horses hop, or what's called swapping ends, because they can't get out of their way. What we do is, all that basic I showed you, we'll teach them to follow their nose. And after they're bending good, I'll take this inside rein. First I'll have my inside leg on them, then I'll take my leg off. I'll take this inside rein and apply an outside leg. See her step that shoulder back? She's learning to move that inside leg back. But when she learns to move that leg back, it's easy for that outside leg to do its job. Does everybody see that? Question? Yes. Yes, the question was, do I want to keep this horse with forward motion? That's an excellent question. They even did an article on that one time. The question in the article was, do you believe the turnaround is forward motion or backwards motion? I personally believe it's both, but I believe they need forward motion to learn it. Then as you finish the more, you can put them on their hocks more. I do not worry about my pivot foot, and you shouldn't worry about that pivot foot while you're teaching your horse to spin. That pivot foot's going to fall in place as soon as they get the front end correct. I'll step that shoulder back, let them cross over, and then I'll walk them out. So yes, it's forward motion while they're learning. Then as they get broken, and you go more with your one hand, you can go more direct like that. And I would say at that point, you're bringing them more back onto their hocks. With the Morgans, I find that if I allow them to be a little more forward in their turnarounds, they're much better at it. Because from what I can feel, the Morgans really like to use their shoulders. They're kind of bred to use their shoulders. And they kind of like to pull themselves, which works really well for you. But if you go putting them back on their hocks, you're really going against the way they're made and what they're bred to do. And I've had much more success letting these Morgans use their shoulders the way they like to. So I sort of don't always finish them off on their hocks with a lot of the backward. I leave them a little bit forward for the turnaround. So that's a little bit on the turnaround. I'm kind of giving you a crash course here, but and afterwards, that's sort of a slow version about what it's supposed to look like. There should be a nice cadence going. And no laughing. See it? Any questions? Yes. Okay, what I do, like I said, is yes, I'll apply my weight in my outside leg, all right? And I'll open my inside leg. I start with my hand, and then my outside leg, I'll press, or like I say, when I use the spur for my turnaround,